Hey guys, welcome back to another video. For a long time now, I wanted to do like a inking tutorial and show how to draw with ink, but I wasn't really sure what I would do until the other day when a friend said that I had a drawing that looked similar to Jack Kirby, one of the most prolific comic book artists in the early days of Marvel, one of the creators of most of the things that are Marvel, along with Stan Lee. But anyway, so I decided to run with that, and today I'm working on a Galactus piece, and I think it's going to be really cool. Stay tuned. I'll do some time lapses and I'll do some explaining of the techniques of what I'm actually doing as well. And here we go. All right, so I'm going to get into it now, and these are the tools that I'm going to be working with. I'm going to be using Micron pens, generic ripoffs of Micron pens, but mostly just 0.3 and 0.5. Those are what I prefer for line work. And then for the heavy darker areas, Sharpie is always good, and this one is a brush pen. Brush pens are always good for getting some line variation. You don't want like just the same thickness of line all the time. You want to vary it a little bit, and you can do that with a brush really easily. So without further ado, let's start along. And what I'm going to do is take a thicker Micron pen, and here's always the tricky part, is where to start. I've got this pencil drawing here. It's just a quick sketch. I did a short video you can go back to, and I'll link it right here, of me doing the pencil, and it's really just as loose as it can be, and then I kind of touched up a little bit of the details. But I think you want to leave a lot of imagination to the pen, honestly. I don't think you want the tightest pencil work to start off with. If you notice here, I do have these X's marked off in certain areas. Those are areas that I'm trying to tell myself, those are solid black areas. So right now, the way we're looking at this character, Galactus, the World Eater, the light sources will be coming from behind him, so a lot of the front of him is going to be blacked out. But anyway, to start things off, I think it's always a good idea to go and outline the shape, outline the character. And this doesn't need to be perfect, but it's just a good starting point. Now that I've got this outline done, if it was maybe like a sexy girl or a main character of some sort, I would want to do the hardest areas first, which is generally the face. So if you mess up on the hardest area, then you can just trash the drawing and start over, and you haven't wasted a ton of time. Since this is more of a science fiction, robotic kind of guy, super scary world eater thing, I don't think that matters, and I can just start top to bottom, honestly. I think I'm gonna go with 0.3 micron. What I'm doing right now is I'm gonna try and capture some of the areas that I wanna keep. And these are gonna be kind of like reflections off the helmet. There's a lot of real mechanical things going on here with him, so it'd be nice to add in a bunch of kind of random lines that look like they could be machinery driven, vents or some kind of details. Also, I'm gonna have areas that are heavy black on black, so I don't want them to be like together. I want to add in a little bit of white, try and preserve that. So when I go straight to a heavy inking Sharpie, leaving that extra little white triangle in there, help me remind me to preserve that area. You can always add in white after the fact too, but it's much more difficult than just keeping the white there. Decided the next plan of attack is to just go straight for all the heaviest black areas. When I color the entire area black, I do kind of like to leave, start off with the outline of the area that you're going to color black, and then slowly fill in the outline from there. Instead of attacking it all at once, this gives you an idea of what you're looking at in case you want to preserve any of these white areas. At this rate, I'm going to be done with my Sharpie. before I'm done with the drawing. But that happens. Sharpies are super cheap. That's why I don't buy a lot of the real expensive art markers for just black, because it doesn't really matter so much. I mean, Sharpie's not really an archival tool, but I've had drawings for over 20 years that have done fine with Sharpie. And they're cheap and they're replaceable. That's really the main thing that matters. Okay, so this section of the chest here is actually supposed to be glare. How I'm gonna achieve that is by going with a brush pen. If I get kind of these brush strokes going on here, it's gonna look a lot more like that glare than just those squares. Try and get it from both directions. You can even use the brush pen for some of the darker areas too, but that's a little bit tricky. And go back to the microns now that I'm starting to get into this machinery. And I guess I'll finish off the head. So what we got for a head is mostly going to be in shadow, but you should see part of his nose. Draw him a little nose here. And then, like I said, there's going to be a lot of it in shadow. The eyes, I'm trying to get just like an illuminated look. So going really lightly in this circular pattern here. I don't want any circle, like a circle line showing the eyeball. I just want it to be light. So after the pencil gets erased underneath there, that's all we'll be left with, is just this glare of evil. It's coming to eat the good guys, at least their planet. Maybe the Fantastic Four will come and save us. Again, I want to preserve some of the white on the edge of the helmet, just to show us that it's there. For such a small area, I hate to use a Sharpie, but that's what I got. Notice that as I'm doing these eyes, I'm trying to get the lines all to go in the same direction. It's minor, but it does show up, especially if you're doing something bigger. And then just do some more shadowy sort of things there. Sticking with that theme of machinery, throw some different kind of lines over those big glare parts, and it gives you like a shiny metal sort of feel. When I ink these lines, I want to make sure that I'm keeping the shapes in mind. I've done videos on shapes before. This is obviously much different than a real face. It's a very obvious cylinder for a helmet. But when I do these bottom lines, I still want to keep that in mind. Make it the same sort of contour as the top of the helmet. And just like the other side, this one is heavily in shadow. Sharpie's kind of like the AK-47 of pens. If you're not careful, it'll put out too much. But that's what we're going for, is a real heavy inking style. You can always clean up the Sharpie with a smaller pen, but you can't have white, so make sure the black is where you want it for sure. It's always interesting drawing for camera. You want to turn the paper and get different angles with these drawings, but you can't turn the paper because it's being filmed, so you're just gonna turn your whole body. Now I'm going to finish up the rest of this body inking in a time lapse, and we'll move on to the background. All right, so got that time lapse done with the rest of the body. And first thing I notice is, this is a little bit of how ink magic can fix mistakes. First thing I notice is that this forearm here is kind of on the wrong side of the body. I mean, it could work out like that and it'd probably be okay, but I think I'd like it better if I pushed it behind the leg. And you might think, oh, I've already inked it, it's permanent. But it's not permanent. More ink, more shadows, and it's done. And having a white would actually really help with this, but I don't really want to get the white out right now. So just do something like that. Throw some gradients in there to kind of blend that in. All I'm doing for blending is just these little lines really close together. It makes it look like shadows. Trying to keep the contour of the gauntlets in mind. There we go. Now the leg is in the foreground to the arm, if you imagine it that way. Anyways, now we're going to move on to the really fun part of this whole thing, which is going to be the background. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here and get started. So this is a very notable thing that Jack Kirby always did. They call it the Kirby Crackle. Whenever he's depicting all this like cosmic rays and space dust and cosmic dust behind the characters, it's always just a bunch of these circles, and it looks really cool. I think the best way to do it is to probably black out a bunch of where you're gonna do the black. I had a little pencil here, but I don't think that the pencil much matters. This is where you get fun and creative and just do the backgrounds. You know, for some of this, I'm gonna need a bigger marker. There we go. For some of this, I got an adult-sized Sharpie. All right, so to achieve this Kirby Crackle, let's take it real low in here and see if I can get this right. Just gonna draw these circles. Vary the size of the circles too, so it kind of shows some difference to them. And then throw some little dots and things off here as well. That really, really looks like that Jack Kirby style, that old 60s Marvel style. Very cool. It's not too hard either. Even throw some stippling in here as well. Stippling is just dots. Okay, so also wanted to have this like planet looking thing. Freehand a circle. It's not that great, but it's in space. At least it looks like it's in space. I'm going to continue with the theme of just adding these little dots to every area that I made black earlier with a larger Sharpie. And the only other thing I think, other than repetition, what I do want to add is some of the same design elements here, but in the negative space. So I just want to go through and draw these circles. I don't even know if I like that, but that's all right. Just having fun. I'm actually going to make that black. What I was trying to achieve is like an outline. Yep, that's going to look a lot better. And for this planet looking thing, you can get it to look more like a planet by giving it some of this sort of crater detail. Just these curved lines. All right, now I'm going to do a time lapse of the rest of the background. there we have it. That's my finished Jack Kirby style, old school Marvel Comics Galactus. And it's all inked up and ready for color. Color will be the next video. And I know it's mostly black, but I'm gonna throw some color in it anyway. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But for now, hope you enjoyed it. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit all the buttons, and we'll see you next time. Bye.